All right, Kalamazoo listeners. Today we have a very special guest. We got Brian Lewis from Scared Hitless. Not only has he been a captain for Scared Hitless for as long as I've been around, but he's also one of the commissioners for our league. So, welcome, Brian. Thanks for taking some time to do this.
Yeah, Zach, great to be here.
So perfect. Brian, quick season recap for you guys. 15-9 record in the social division. You guys also won the division by an astounding 3 games. So that's a heck of a first start for this new league setting that we have. What was your takeaways from the season on that?
So one of the things that I found is that the social league was way more competitive when we had a lot more parity than I expected. And I looking forward to this upcoming season, and I know we'll talk about it in a few minutes, but I think we'll have to strategize our pitching a little bit better than what we did in last season, the 2022 season, because we kind of just went out there and knew we could hit the ball well enough and play decent defense.
Right.
But really not thinking about pitching as much as we normally would cost us 5 or 6 games.
Definitely. And it's crazy how we've both been in this league forever and how that pitching aspect can really sneak up on you, especially in a new league like this. So, but like you said, hitting wise, I mean, you guys got it done hitting. You had a team batting average of 471, and you guys put up a 50 burger in home runs this year, which is incredible. What do you take for the success for that? Like, how did you guys manage to do that all year long?
Well, so I think the average was because we make fun of each other if we're not going to run out, leg out those singles.
Right.
And then there was also, I think, taking advantage of weak defense for some of the teams on the social side, where maybe we're legging things into doubles, and then they might be a little bit worried about giving up one run from a guy on second, so we might get a little bit of a meteor pitch, which led to some of those home runs. But yeah, in general, I would say it was probably because we were really trying to leg out those singles, and
Definitely.
yeah, maybe stretching things out and making people make mistakes in their first season or two.
Yeah, and that's a big aspect of it, but don't take anything for granted. I mean, you still got to hit the ball, you still got to put it in play, and you still got to put it over the fence, and you managed to do that all year long. So going off of that, um, who was your top batters? Like, give me a little insight into your guys' roster. Who did you guys lean on for that big hit, for that big home run, and pitching wise, what do you got for me today?
Yeah, so the hitters that we would focus on in those key situations. So Adam Kuzman, he was
Hmm.
hitting a lot of long balls, but what we found was that Bryce Bodke kind of came up with the clutch hits most often in the games when we would have crossover with the competitive teams, or when we were just in a close game on the social side. So Kuzman put up several multi-home run games throughout the year. I mean, it might have had even 5 or 6. And so he can still spray the ball really well. So pitchers, if they're throwing him outside, he's a right-handed batter. He's going to, a double off the right field fence, no problem. And then Bodke has a very different swing. So when we put those two guys up next to each other, we found it was really hard for people to pitch to both of them effectively in the same inning. So Kuzman's really can kind of spray it all over the place. And then Bodke is going to lace anything that's on the inside. He can turn on it really quickly and kind of has a flatter swing. So he has a lot of line drives.
And I can attest to that too. I pitched against you guys multiple times this year, and no matter what I did or what Chase did or anybody really in the social division, even in the competitive division, you guys were so tough to get out because you had that ability to go opposite field, especially with you. And Kuzman has been doing this forever. It's incredible to watch you guys keep doing this and having the success that you have, and I'm hoping that you guys can keep it going. So what's the plans? What do you guys got for next year?
Yeah, so one of the things, we're having Chase Gall back this year. So he's a speedy younger guy, a lefty, and that adds to that on base percentage that I was talking about. So we're getting a lot of singles from him, not a lot of long balls yet, what it does in addition to spraying the balls around the field is it shifts the defense to where like our defensive strategy against a mostly right-handed hitting league is to put two people in left field or two fielders over there and make people hit oppo on us. And then if, we give up a single, so be it. But we make a lot more plays defensively by playing in that setup. And by us being able to hit oppo and have one lefty, it keeps people moving back and forth. And so when we have those games where we kind of need to strategize or just mix up the lineup a little bit, we can really spray the ball all over the place, and it makes it really tough for a defense, especially if they're a little inexperienced. So this year we're planning to do the same. So our roster will be Adam Kuzman, Bryce Bodke, myself, Chase Gall, Crowley Taylor, and Mason Everett. So really the same people that we had last year. We might also bring back for a few games Ethan Hollingsworth, who played, I think he's been out 2.5 seasons now, just with family stuff. But he was an ex minor league ball player, can throw a ton of gas, and he hits the ball really well. I think he'll be out more for hitting than pitching, but he's another guy that we could definitely have in the lineup that would hit a few long balls every game.
Definitely. So that was one name that I came across when I was looking at your stats today is Chase Gall. How long has he been in the league?
So he was a rookie last year. He played fall ball with us the year prior. And he's a super athletic guy, like a big snowboarder. So he's quick. He's got good footwork. And he's picked up hitting, especially on the I guess slower pitching. He's able to sit back on it and wait for a pitch that he can drive. So he still gets, excited if it's a pitch he thinks he should put out of the park. But he puts a lot of balls in play. So he's pretty selective. And I'm excited to see what he's going to do when he comes back this spring training in April.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. So to kind of go off of that a little bit, when he came in as a rookie, how much did you lean on Adam and Bryce, Mason, and yourself to teach him the ropes? I mean, you guys have been around forever. You played in the competitive league. You guys have been there every single year in the playoffs, championship runs. Your pedigree is awesome. So how did you guys kind of take him under your role, and how can you describe to other teams the best way to bring a rookie into the league and to help them succeed in the way that he did this year?
So one of the things, and it may have cost us a game or two, was we put him in the tough situations early. And so if we were rotating defenses, whether it was right field to left field or odd innings versus even innings for people going out there, we would put him in the even inning. So he was going to get that last inning where he had to play solid defense. And he definitely screwed stuff up like we all do when we're learning, or if it was really gusty winds and there was a ball with a big spin, or, there's a guy, maybe running home that you don't have a chance for, but you make a throw. So then a guy that should be stopped at first ends up going to third. So we let him make those mistakes and figure out a little bit of what not to do. And then when he come back to the bench after the inning, we might give a little correction and then just say, okay, let's watch the other guys this time. But instead of kind of saying what not to do early on, we let him go and figure that out a little bit. And I think he settled in defensively earlier than he would have if we would have said, never go for a guy that's running home, or, hold the ball and just get it back to the pitcher. And then later in the season, he came up with some, great clutch defensive plays. Like he can cover a lot of ground in the outfield. So situationally, he's still working on things a little bit, but he can track the ball down. He gets a really good first step when the ball's off the bat. So we're just working on, knowing the situation of where the wind's blowing or where a particular hitter might like to push it. So you can shade a little bit more. and then still working a little bit on communicating with your outfield partner to make sure you know who's going to do what before the ball is put in play.
And that's awesome. It's things that guys don't think about, the really small things that if you've been in this league for a long time, you know these things. And to be able to not only coach him, but I've seen you coach other guys. I've seen Kuzman coach other guys. It's a testament to where this league's gone. Yes, it's competitive, but we're also here to help these guys no matter what, because everybody wants to win, succeed, and have fun. So I appreciate that, and I thank you for that. That's a really cool thing that you guys do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does make for the league, even on the social side, we're pretty even. So even the teams that are down towards the bottom, as I looked at the standings from last year, they still had decent batting averages. They still had plenty of highlights when we go back and look through the things we post on social media. And so, yeah, taking the time and helping people, especially the rookies on each of these teams, about what they could do, or even in batting practice, everybody kind of helping each other out. It makes for better games for everybody, and that's what we all want. Nobody wants blowouts. So if we can have those on both competitive and the social side, and where they're within, two or three runs, that's better for everybody.
Oh, I completely agree. So, got to ask. Obviously, you guys had some roster turnover, and then you decided as a team to move to social division, even though you've had so much success against the top tier teams. How did your team react to losing a couple players and then making the decision to be in the social league? And no disrespect to social league, but there is a big difference in the competitiveness. So, how did that conversation go?
It was a long conversation. We kind of let it marinate in the off season, before we had to make the call. We knew, David Ayers wanted to stay competitive. And then there were some of us that were kind of on the fence of what to do. And then, like me, like I knew if I really wanted to be competitive in the league, I needed to kind of go all in. And I don't know if I was quite there to go all in. Some of it was logistics of, those of us that run the league most were on the competitive side. So I thought it was also a good thing to have one of us on the social side.
Mhm.
But yeah, we talked about it a lot, and who really wanted it to be, those intense battles every week. And as we talked through it, the majority of us really wanted to go out and have a good time and have a lower level of competitiveness, but we knew we'd still have that in there. And then also the thing that came into play is that we wanted to have more of a pitching rotation, and we knew we couldn't do that on the competitive side. So it would have been just Ayers, Kuzman, and Bodke pitching all year long. And then just with arms the way that they were for us the
Mhm.
previous couple of years, and just with schedules where we knew people wouldn't make every game, we weren't sure quite how we'd fit in on the competitive side with all of those variables taken into account. So it was the right call. And Ayers had a great season with Grant Miller and Bad
Mhm.
Boys. And so he had fun with it, and he would still come out and check out our games, and we would go check out his. So that was, the emotional hardship a little bit of, playing with a
Right.
buddy for so long and then having them go to a different team. But everybody was happy in the end. So I think we made the right calls.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad that you guys were in the social division with us, because we had some battles, all teams battled, and it was definitely a lot of fun this year the way that we set it up. So next question for you. Hitless has been around KWL forever. How long have you guys been? What was the starting year for Hitless?
We started in 2010, and our first game was against the PF Flyers, who kind of some of those people have evolved into playing on the Legends now. But they only had two guys show up. So, and we had just three, I think. And so I ended up playing defense for them, going both ways on defense, and made a double play against my own team and cost us the game. So it was a goofy way for us to start out. But yeah, it was very early on. After that, halfway through the first season, we knew we were going to be in this for a long haul. And then so that was a good rookie season for us. We brought some other people on over the next couple of years, and then we won the championship back to back in 2012 and 2013. And so those were definitely highlights. And then since then, we've been an early exiter from the playoffs in most seasons, going out in the first round since then. But we're still hoping to be pretty competitive. We do a little bit of off-season training. I'm sure not enough, but we're hoping for this year to, well, one, definitely stay on top of the social division, but really try to hone our, third or fourth pitchers to really kind of see what we could do in the playoffs, because we had a really good chance to beat Flying Monkeys last year, and we just, fell short. And I think some of that is not having enough competitive games throughout the year, or not games against the competitive teams where they see each other, a lot of weeks. And so we had a lot of close games, but not seeing some of those pitchers and not getting many at bats off of them kind of hurt us a little bit. So I think we're going to work on that a little bit in spring training, and maybe our practice nights when we go up just to screw around, kind of work on hitting off of faster pitching. Maybe we can get back up there and make a decent run in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, you definitely have the roster. You have the pitching. You guys can hit, and it's not just the home runs. Even though you had a bunch last year, it's the average. It's the smart defense. There's no doubt that you guys will be back in that talk again next year. And I'm definitely excited for you guys, because you're a fun group to play against and to just hang out with too. So that's a credit to you guys being in the league as long as you have. You've seen the turnover, you've seen it all, and to keep it going like that's awesome. So, how do you think that you guys have managed to keep Hitless around for as long as you have? I mean, you see some turnover with teams, guys jump in teams. What's that accredited to?
Yeah, so I think it helps a lot that when wiffle ball season is going on, we spend a lot of time together, whether it's, going out for dinner or to get some drinks after the games, or some of us have different vacations together, or trying to go to the Growlers games, things like that, where we'll hang out together during the season, but then not as much in the off season. So then we look forward to not only playing wiffle ball again, but hanging out with the buddies that we don't catch up with as much in the off season. And so I think that has helped us quite a bit. We also, when Ayers was on the team, and we would live stream most of the games, but he would also record them. So we would have these fun kind of end of season parties that we would look forward to, because we would have highlight reels or low light reels for each of us. And so it just left us, like, we would always end the season, even if we would lose first round of the playoffs, we'd still have these fun ways to cap off the season. And then we're kind of done talking about wiffle ball for a few months, and just kind of, get that break that I think we each needed to go and do some other fun things. So always by this time of the year, we're itching, ready to get out. And I think it's because we have those good relationships during the season, and then we kind of go and, like a lot of athletes in the off season will go and do their own things, and then they come back and they're excited to be with their teammates again once the regular season starts.
Definitely. And I know you and I aren't the only ones with that itch to get back and to get out there. It's going to be a fun season this year. So let me ask you this. How has the league changed over the years? Obviously, we've implemented new rules, younger guys, we have older guys, we've got a grandpa out there. How has everything changed in your eyes, and how has Scared Hitless been able to adapt to the constant changes?
So it's gone up and down as we've done. I think the rule changes that we put in place go with the talent that we have. So when a number of years ago, when we moved the pitcher's mound back a little bit, because pitchers were being so dominant.
Yes.
And then we would put some other rules in place to kind of help, because it was getting a little hard for the new teams to come in and hit the ball. So when we, moved the pitcher's mound back, then you wouldn't have as many no hitters, but it improved the offense a little bit. And then as we needed to bring in new people that might not have as much familiarity with baseball, when we put in rules like the foul arc, where you could get a little more dribbler singles that kind of helped with some of the on base percentage and averages. But it's really been an ebb and flow as far as whether it's a hitters league or a pitchers league.
Mhm.
But what I've found that's been consistent over the years is that there are a lot of people that I think are more athletic than what they see in their normal day-to-day lives. There's certainly like many good ex high school or college baseball players that have been in the league that are just good athletes, but we see a lot of people that make a lot of good, fun, athletic defensive plays or have just really beautiful swings by the midpoint of their first season. And so while we're drawing different people, and I think that's one of the things that's changed a little bit, again, ups and downs.
Mhm.
One of the things that's been consistent is that there are highlights from every team in the league, that there's enough that this is that type of a game, and then we set it up in that league that teams can still make highlights. And I think that's one of the things that we've tried to stay relevant, is putting ourselves in situations where we can have those big games, whether it's selling out for a dive, or really trying to buckle down when we need to manufacture a 10-run comeback that leads to a walk-off. So I think those are the things that have kind of changed and still somewhat stayed the same with the league, and then also with us, because we all try to stay in somewhat decent shape and do enough things throughout the off season where we're still swinging something, whether it's a tennis racket or golf clubs or hockey sticks, something where when we're coming back in the spring, we're not too cold.
Right. Yeah, it definitely has been ups and downs with it. Me personally, I like everything that we've done. It's a fun league. It really is, and it's all about the people that are in the league too, and we cannot forget that. So I like where we're going. But let's get into the past season a little bit more here. Um, who, in your opinion, whether it's competitive or social, who was the toughest team that you guys had to pitch against this year?
So we had a really tough time. Well, we played them competitively, but flying monkeys were really
Yes.
hard for us. Um, there on the competitive side, there's a lot of good hitters, but we've always struggled, and I've always think it's the biggest asset is when there's a fast team. And if you have a fast team with people that can hit the long ball, whether it's those speedy guys or just other people, the defense ends up making mistakes that they normally wouldn't, because they're so worried about getting that speedy guy out. So whether it's a lefty like you that's got just that extra step that can get you down to first, or just really some of the young guys like Ty Smith, um, who's willing to slide into even first, but definitely into second or third.
Definitely.
So you play a step in closer, you're a little more tense to get the throw off quickly, and if you bobble it, then that's it.
Yep.
Um, so I think flying monkeys was really challenging for us. Diablos are another one that we didn't play every competitive team, but Nate Thompson's team's always tough to pitch against because they tend to run shorter lineups. So those teams that when you have to get the out, like you got to get this guy, so then their big hitter doesn't come up again that inning with the bases loaded. That's where we can struggle a little bit, because we just don't stay quite as relaxed and tense up, and then you've got to be perfect, versus if you're relaxed, you might be able to bobble it but still make a good quality throw. But if you're too worried about one specific thing, it's really hard to be perfect in that play.
Yeah, I totally agree. Trying to make that perfect pitch or the perfect fielding play, because a Nate Thompson's coming up, Lee's coming up, Kuzman. I mean, there's so many guys that you're absolutely correct. You have to make that play, and that's when you make the mistake. And we see it day in and day out. I do it all the time. it's tough. It's something that you really got to get over mentally. Just stay calm, make the play, deal with what's happening next, and it's a tough one, that's for sure. So that's a good call out on that. What about toughest team to hit against? Who had the best pitchers that you guys played this year?
Yeah. So, so we struggled against your team. We had we put up some good numbers. I'm trying to think this more on the social side than competitive, because competitive, like there's a lot of good pitchers, but we didn't see them that often. But Brutang, because you guys have people, your pitchers throw very differently. Some of the games were hard for us to adjust. We had the same thing with graboids on a couple of the games,
Yes.
where most of the guys would, throw a little bit slower, or those very natural kind of lobbing curveballs that for a right-handed batter from a right-handed pitcher would kind of start in tight, but then would go over the middle of the plate or on the outside of the plate. We could handle those just fine, but then they had pitchers that could throw a lot of knuckleballs where you kind of had to wait, with Phil Shaler or
Yeah.
Dustin Bolt can throw
Yep.
pretty hard still. And so when he was on, that transition from one game to the next, or they wouldn't leave their starter in very much. So they would mix up their games. So that also made it challenging. So I think in years past, we would put up a lot more runs on both of those teams than last year. We were down on some of the numbers, I think, where we could have been if we would have got a few more at bats against any one of those pitchers in the same night. So I think Josh Buck and Vinny Cataldo, manage their teams really well. And I think we'll have to kind of focus on that and try to manage our lineup or our approach a little bit differently when we play them in this upcoming season.
Definitely. Yep. And I can attest to that. That change of speeds is very tough. So with the new divisions this year, give me on the competitive side and then on the social side, doesn't matter which one you do first. Um, Rivals. Who do you guys amp up for on the competitive side? Like, you just play so hard, no matter what it is, you want to beat them and just beat them. Who do you got?
Yeah, so it's gotta be either Diablos, which I think it's tough to make a rivalry against them because they're on most nights they're gonna beat us pretty handily. But we always try to be gamers against them, because there's some nights we can get into the pitchers' heads a little bit, and if our aces of Kuzmin and Bodke are throwing well,
Mhm.
we can still keep it close. But then we have to have a little bit of luck to maybe they make a defensive error, which they usually don't, or we hit a few balls off of one of their better pitchers that maybe we normally wouldn't. But I think it's going to be flying monkeys on the competitive side.
Ooh, I like
Um,
it.
yeah, because we play them tough most of the time. We also chirp a lot more with them because they're younger guys, but they've been around long enough that they know our personalities. Um, and yeah, so I think that's going to be the big rivalry for us. Maybe not just this year, but over the next few years, as we could see them. We could see Flying Monkeys in the playoffs for the next few years, which would be fun.
Definitely. What about on the social division side?
Yeah, so the social, Brutang, your team's always going to be those. I mean, we have a lot of fun when we're playing each other. So that's, a good, healthy rivalry, but I think also our games are going to continue to be close.
Mhm.
Or, we might have a lot of splits. I don't think there's going to be a lot of sweeps against our two teams for
I hope
the
so.
next few years. Um, and then with my son captaining Take a Whiff again
Mhm.
this year, and him bringing some of his high school or college buddies to play, I know that will be just a natural rivalry to just the proud moments when he hits a dinger off of me, and then the even more proud moments when I lace 3 or 4 off of him.
What's a better feeling for you as a dad, watching your son hit a home run off you, or you hitting an absolute nuke off of him? What makes you feel
That
better?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's definitely him hitting the home runs off of me
Good answer.
is a more proud moment. I'm going to talk a lot more trash when I hit them off of him, but yeah, when he hits them off of me, that's fun to watch that ball go over the fence.
It is cool, and then seeing the reactions from everybody too. It's a lot of fun. So, what's Hitless's goals for this year? Obviously playoffs. What else are you guys thinking?
Yeah, so we're dealing with a couple of injuries. So Kuzman's, well, and really for a lot of off seasons, he nurses a hamstring. So we're hoping that he comes back and he's able to participate at 100%. And then also Mason Everett's having some shoulder issues, which we think we're going to take. He'll be able to play the full season, but pitching is going to be down a little bit. So I think one of our goals is to get Chase Gall up to speed on pitching. And Rolly Taylor will probably throw quite a few innings this year. So I think if we can get those guys going early, that'll hit like kind of one of our, early season targets, to be, way better than 500 in the first half of the season. So we'd like to, going into All-Star break, only lose, maybe 3 or 4 games. I think that's very doable because we'd like to get to where we could be at a point of, kind of gaming those last few weeks of knowing, really where we're seeing teams line up, which is kind of hard to do because those last few seed spots for the playoffs change a lot in the last few weeks, but it's way better to be able to control, like, this is who we think we're going to match up best with and maybe set our pitching lineups accordingly those last few weeks. So, we're controlling our destiny going into the playoffs a little bit more than what we did in the last year. So getting our pitching up to speed and getting Chase to learn a few more pitches is a goal. And then also starting off strong in the first half of the season is a goal that'll set us up well for the second half.
And it really takes the pressure off of you guys too. You can rest those hamstrings or those arms. You hit those early season, mid season goals. It sets you up for the last portion of the season, which we all know is a gruel with the heat, with all the games that we play. And let's face it, we're not getting any younger. So that's a great goal for you guys. And then to kind of wrap it up here, it can be Commissioner Lewis talking here. It can be Captain of Scared Hitless talking here. What's some rumor mills for Hitless or the league going into this year?
Yeah, so I mentioned one a little bit earlier that we think Ethan Hollingsworth is going to come back a little bit, and we're going to try really hard to make that happen on our crossover nights with the competitive side. And so him pitching, I think people could watch out for. He could come in, if he's only going to throw a couple times a year and his arm is just juiced at the end, then that's okay. So I think people could expect him to come back and he just throws pure gas and it's a lot of fun to watch. And then I think on the commissioner side, I think are going to have a full slate of teams on the social side. So really trying to max out at the 8 of what we can handle for the Thursday nights. So I think that's where we're leaning now based off of some of the good outreach that we've been doing. And the new teams that are coming in, I think are going to be strong. So I'm thinking the social this time where, last year the team with the fewest wins was 6, and then the most was ours with 15. So I think we're going to be bunched up a little bit more with some of the new teams coming on. And so that's going to be great. And then the all-star festivities that we're planning to be a little bit different than what we've done in the past. And we took a year off last year doing a mid-season event. So that's something that's definitely in the works. And I think players and fans are really going to like that we're bringing it back in a different format than what we've done in the past. So it should be a lot of fun.
Care to elaborate on that at all?
We're gonna get a lot more players involved, and we're gonna try to showcase everybody's skill sets. So we've got people that are great at a lot of things, and we're gonna try to do that this year. So that's all I'll say on that for now.
Home run derby? Question mark.
We always will have a home run derby. Everybody likes to see the bombs.
Love it. We got to hook it up with the GoPros again on our hats.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Brian, for being a part of this. And as always, KWL fans, listeners, appreciate you. Follow us on social media. And Brian, thanks again. Have a great night, man.
Yep. Thanks, Zach. You as well.